Like, if you guys have been following along, I pretty much consistently have never changed my overall stance on the concept of utilizing tariffs, right? But this is going to be painful on everyone's end because obviously, if we enact any type of tariffs, then they are going to enact some type of tariff, and it's just going to be a moderate trade war that's going to be happening until basically the tariffs are no longer there, right? But using or utilizing the tariffs to kind of get what we need specifically in a deal. I understand the concept of it, but I just want everyone to be fully aware when tariffs are basically put in place, it's not generally them that feel it, it's us. But I think for the most part, the average economist would most likely agree with that statement here, guys. But let's go and check this video out immediately. Kristi Noem says Canada, Mexico, and China will feel the pain of tariffs. Let's go and check it out. This is a suggestion via a channel member.
And joining me now from the border in Del Rio, Texas, is Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. Secretary Noem, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to be with you today, Kristen.
Thank you so much for being here, Madam Secretary. We are going to talk about the border, the deportation plan in just a moment. I do have to start by talking about the breaking news overnight. The president officially announcing those new tariffs against Canada, Mexico, and China, saying he wants those countries to do more to crack down on illegal immigration and drug trafficking. The three countries are all slamming the move. They're vowing retaliatory strikes. Is the United States now in a trade war?
Yes. By definition.
You know, these countries have an opportunity to get on board with the president of the United States and to partner with us to deal with illegal immigration, to take back their individuals that have been in our country illegally. We want to repatriate them home, and they can be partners. So economically, yes, they will feel pain. They will feel what this consequences are, and will be able to continue to go forward with a president who's strong, who's putting America first.
Okay, well, these countries are not America. And like, I think this is kind of the thing here. What she stated here, obviously, is very true from specifically her perspective, right? But the reality of the situation is these are all sovereign nations, and sovereign nations generally not going to just completely bend or cower, let's say, to America. They're just not, they cannot do that, right? So of course they're going to give some type of retaliation. I think that's just by definition. And just like if it was done to us, we would do the same thing as they're going to do to us, basically. It makes all the sense in the world. But either way, let's continue.
You know, let me just stress that point that I made, which is the president cites stopping the flow of fentanyl and undocumented migrants for reasons for these tariffs. And yet, Madam Secretary, Canada is not a major source of fentanyl coming into the United States. It's frankly minuscule compared to what is seized at the southern border. Why is the United States punishing Canada, one of its closest allies, more than China, where fentanyl...
Okay, guys, really quickly. So when it comes down to specifically fent, let's say, I'm going to say that because it's easier to not get flagged. But either way, yeah, it's coming from Mexico. Big fact here, guys. But Canada itself, there are individuals that are flying into Canada because they know that our northern border is basically open. They're flying into there, specifically South Asians. They're coming from there and going to Canada and just basically walking through our border. We're getting a gigantic population of from India coming in to the country from Canada exclusively. So yeah, in fact, it may not be about specifically the proliferation, let's say, of fent, but it is in fact the proliferation of migrants.
No, originates.
Canada has some work to do as far as helping us secure our northern border. So we still know we're extremely vulnerable across that northern border, that we have people coming into our country from China, from foreign countries. We have people on the terrorist watch list that come in over our northern border. And in fact,
New York.
What we have sent a message this week on is that we're not just going to enforce our southern border. We're going to put extra resources at that northern border as well. So Canada needs to come to the table. They need to work with us to make sure that not only can we be good neighbors, but that we can help each other's economies by getting in line and making sure that our immigration policies are followed and that those that are dangerous criminals face consequences. The president has been very clear from the beginning that there's a new sheriff in town, that he's going to make sure he's putting Americans first, and that Canada can help us or they can get in the way and they will face the consequences of it.
As you know, Madam Secretary, economists all across the board are warning that ultimately tariffs lead to higher prices for consumers, and that these tariffs in particular could see prices increase on food, electronics, and cars.
Oil,
the president
wood,
himself acknowledging this morning these
food.
tariffs could cause, quote, some pain. How is this move helping President Trump fulfill his campaign promise to lower prices?
Yeah, because there are two issues. Like, I mean, his main campaign promises were immigration along with the economy. And so if he can actually slow down the movement of illegal individuals through the country, let's say, then that would be fulfilling one of the main ones at the very least. I think that would probably be enough for the majority of his supporters or his base specifically to be like, okay, he's doing great things out there, guys, right? Now, don't get me wrong here. I don't mind what he's doing here. I know things are going to get crazy. In terms of financials, specifically if we do enter into a trade war with our closest allies, right? That's going to be intriguing, to say the least, with how much things actually balloon. But if that will actually stop the concept of illegality, then I think it's a fair trade.
You know, you've seen the president take action already this week with Colombia, and you saw Colombia react in a very positive way that was good for everyone involved. Canada, Mexico, other countries have the opportunity to do exactly the same. So
yeah, but now Colombia looks weak to their citizens.
We have a strong leader
of
he has
Colombia.
laid down exactly what he is going to do and what the consequences are. I encourage their leadership teams to get on board and to make sure that they're not pushing up prices. If prices go up, it's because of other people's reactions to America's laws. And that's what President Trump is doing. He is making sure that we're not picking and choosing winners and losers, that the law applies equally to everybody, American citizens. It applies to those who are here illegally, and our world leaders across the country and across the world. They can help us, or they're going to face some consequences.
Okay, so notable, you are acknowledging it is possible that prices could at least initially go up.
Oh, yeah,
Secretary
they will.
Noem, let me shift now.
And guys, look at the stock market. The stock market is basically done, guys. Like, everything has fallen. Like, if you are a part of it, if you take any part in the stock market, look at your portfolio.
To the southern border where you are, let's
As of
talk
right
about
now, because
the
of this.
administration's mass deportation plans. There are a lot of questions about the announcement this week that Guantanamo Bay will be used as a detention facility for migrants.
Okay.
Will people held at Guantanamo have the same due process rights and access to attorneys that they have here in the United States?
That's actually an amazing question, because specifically of what Guantanamo Bay is, like specifically for what it is, that's a really good question.
Yes, due process will be followed, and having facilities at Guantanamo Bay will be an asset to us, and the fact that we'll have the capacity to continue to do there what we've always done. We've always had a presence of illegal immigrants there that have been detained. We're just building out some capacity. So we appreciate the partnership of the DOD in getting that up to the level that it needs to get to in order to facilitate this repatriation of people back to their countries. So remember that Guantanamo Bay, clearly by this president, has said that it will hold the worst of the worst, that we are going after those bad actors. This last week I was in New York City. We were going after people that had warrants out for their arrest on murders and rapes, assaults, gun purchases, drug trafficking. In fact, we had a member of TDA that was one of the ringleaders that we picked up that week had been trying to buy grenades.
Wow.
These are the types of individuals that we are targeting. We're removing from communities, and that could end up having a stay at Guantanamo Bay before they are returned home to their countries to deal with.
Is it possible, Madam Secretary, that people could be held at Guantanamo Bay indefinitely?
Another good question.
That is not the plan. The plan is to have
That is not the plan? The answer should be no to that question, guys. It just should be no.
That is not the plan. The plan is to have a process that we follow that's laid out in law, and make sure that we're dealing with these individuals appropriately according to what the state and the national lawsuit or law directs. So we will work with Congress to make sure that we're addressing our legal immigration laws and using Guantanamo Bay appropriately. Okay. But it is an asset that we have that we fully intend to utilize.
Could women?
Right. Yeah, I think there definitely needs to be some type of oversight there. Like pretty much based off of the responses that she's giving, yeah, I think it's probably mandatory that there is some type of like civilian oversight specifically there, based off of the sound of this.
Appropriately, but it is an asset that we have that we fully intend to utilize.
Could women, children, and families be held there at Guantanamo?
You know, if you look at what we are doing today is targeting the worst of the worst. We've been very clear on that. The priority of this president is to go after criminal aliens that are making our streets more dangerous. After that, we have final removal orders on many individuals in this country. They are the next priority, and we'll continue to work through people that are breaking the law, that are in danger to these communities, and use the detention centers that we have set up in order to facilitate this in an orderly way.
She did not answer the question at all, guys.
But I guess, Madam Secretary, my question, would you rule out that women, that children, that...
I mean, don't keep... It sounds like she's under the assumption that all women are like innocent.
I guess, Madam Secretary, my question, would you rule out that women, that children, that families could be held at Guantanamo Bay? Do you rule that out?
You know, Kristi, we're going to use the facilities.
She's not going to answer that question, guys.
That we have, and I think you're well aware, we have other detention facilities, other places in the country. So we will utilize what we have according to what's appropriate for the individuals that we have gone out on these targeted operations with local law enforcement and task forces to make sure that they're being brought in, they're not paroled anymore onto our streets, that we're keeping America safe, and that we're following the process for what happens when they break the law and how they are returned to their countries. I've been extremely grateful for Secretary of State Marco Rubio's work with these countries to negotiate and use diplomacy to ensure that they are going to be taking individuals back, not just from their country, but surrounding countries, so that we can immediately take action to return them far from the United States, which dramatically increases the likelihood that they're not going to come back.
Let me ask you, I've been talking to people who are...
I want to go ahead and say really quickly, yeah, her media training is great, guys. I mean, she completely skirted around the question and still never actually answered it. The concept of children being held in Guantanamo Bay is wild to me mentally. But now the interviewer here is also saying women and children, to keep this in mind here, if the woman is a criminal, she belongs there the same as the man does. So that's one thing here. But children, that's a stretch, guys.
Here legally, and they have expressed concerns. They say they are carrying, in some cases, their documents around with them. Some of them are afraid to go to churches because ICE agents are now going into churches and schools to carry out these deportation operations. Do people who are here legally need to be carrying around paperwork? And can you guarantee that people who are here legally won't be wrongfully detained?
Wrongfully detained. I don't think she can guarantee that, pretty much based off of a couple of instances as that's already happened here. Now, actually arrested and deported, no, but detained, plausible. Specifically, if you are in the presence of someone who is like a gotaway or like one of the individuals who they're chasing after, let's say, if you are in the presence, most likely you're going to be detained.
Kristen, I would say that if I've heard that expressed by people that are legal citizens of the United States, it's because the media has perpetuated that fear. The media has said that that's a possibility. There's nothing from this administration, from President Trump, or from any of the law enforcement individuals in these communities that has said that they need to walk around and be concerned about that at all. The citizens of the United States are confident that finally, after 4 long years of
She specifically mentioned citizens, not residents. That's intriguing.
States are confident that finally, after 4 long years of having a president...
Because the reason why I'm saying that is because I think to give kind of credence to what the interviewer just said, the residents are the ones who are probably looking like, do I carry my papers? Most likely it's the residents, not the actual full-blown citizens, guys.
Be concerned about that at all.
There's a process of immigration.
The citizens of the United States are confident that finally, after 4 long years of having a president in the White House that ignored federal law and endangered their communities, that there's a different man in charge now.
Definitely.
There's a man in charge who loves this country, is going to help make their communities safer. And these citizens that live here are thrilled. In fact, when I was in New York City earlier this week and in several cities since then, the people walking by us on the streets were thanking
I can imagine.
our officers. They were thanking these investigators and those that were taking these dangerous criminals out for being there, for making sure that they could walk their kids to school with a new confidence that they could get there safely and that they could do business and have their community back.
Yeah, that's incredibly valid, guys, what she just said here. And I can only imagine, like, I mean, listen, if you are in New York, you're not really close to the southern border at all, you don't really experience the migrant crisis at all so far, right? And so what happens is you then get millions of people basically get dumped on top of your head, and you have no idea who these people are, where they're from, the motives in life, et cetera, et cetera. So of course, the people who are now experiencing all this for the first time, yeah, they're pissed, guys. Like, we've seen so many videos of New Yorkers completely irate, talking about, like, listen, I'm glad that you guys are here. All right. So if I see something, I'm going to call you guys on the phone and be like, they're right here. Go get them, guys. Right. There are a lot of people in some of these inner cities that are absolutely willing and ready to completely turn every single one of these people in, bro.
Secretary Noem, let me ask you about the news that you made overnight. DHS officially making the decision to end temporary protective status for our audience. That means applies to about 500,000 Venezuelans. They no longer have protection from deportation. These are people who were welcomed here. They did everything by the books. Why should they be subject to deportation?
That is a serious conflict of interest, guys. We'll be honest here. Yeah, they all came. A lot of them came. Like, 600, 700,000 people came from Venezuela under the guise of saying that you have basically a free pass into the United States of America because by definition and by default, you are considered an asylum seeker. And then for that to be ripped away, that's a little bit tricky, guys. It was given and then it was taken. And that's probably the only one of the scenarios that actually stand out to me as like, ooh, that's a tough one, guys.
Just very quickly.
Well, the TPP program has been abused, and it doesn't have integrity right now. And folks from Venezuela that have come into this country are members of TDA. And remember, Venezuela purposely emptied out their prison.
She just said that the people that all basically, without any caveat, all the people that came from Venezuela are members of TDA. Let me actually rehear that, just so I can kind of grasp it, if that's the case.
Venezuela that have come into this has been abused, and it doesn't have integrity right now. And folks from Venezuela that have come into this country are members of TDA.
What?
And remember, Venezuela purposely emptied out their prisons, emptied out their mental health facilities, and sent them to the United States of America. So we are ending that extension of that program,
that's also
adding
valid.
some integrity back into it.
Very valid.
And this administration's evaluating all of our programs to make sure they truly are something that's to the benefit of the United States, so that they're not to the benefit of criminals.
Homeland.
Okay, that's valid. That's incredibly valid. Now, but we can pretty much guesstimate the amount of people that actually basically came here after the Iraq state basically emptied out their prison. We can pretty much guesstimate the amount of people, and it's nowhere near 600,000. So I definitely would not say that the overwhelming majority of Venezuelans that have come to the country are part of TDA. That's just a wild statement to make. I'm not sure that has any merit actually at all. I would say, bro, if we want to guesstimate, a very low percentage of that 600,000 people are part of that organization. And then we can pretty much also put a number to the amount of people that came out of the Iraq state prison, guys. So a couple of things, a couple of glaring issues here, guys.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, thank you so much. I know it's been a busy week. I know you've also been very engaged in the investigation into the horrific crash here. We appreciate your joining us. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Well, that's that. So this is the first time I've ever actually heard her speak on anything. I've never, I've seen her like in passing, kind of in videos that you guys have sent me, but never have I actually heard her actually speak. Definitely, she's extremely media trained. I think, as expected, though, she would kind of had to be. But I definitely wish we could kind of get more off the cuff type of conversations. But I get it. You can't do that because, everything you say is basically under a microscope. Because of who you are, I'm going to specifically put every single thing you say underneath the microscope because you are incredibly important to the federal government. Right. But all right, guys. Now, when it comes to these tariffs, I do understand that we do have to utilize something that will force people in other countries to not do to like actually stop allowing gigantic caravans of migrants to walk through your country. You know where they're going. You know where they're going. Like, you're allowing it. They're not staying in your country. They're not. They're coming straight to us. Right? To basically take advantage of our our previously open borders, okay, and a weak president. That's what it is, guys. Whew. Now, was that program, the temporary protective status, taken advantage of? Absolutely, it was. Like, thinking deeply about it, yeah, guys, it definitely was. But I would not say that all 600,000 people are part of some like mysterious organization, because again, we could put numbers to all of these things. Like, if you're specifically talking about Tren de Aragua, if you're specifically talking about that, guys, that is not 600,000, and she didn't give it a caveat. But I understand she's speaking live on TV. Maybe she meant to, but I only have to go with what you said, and what she said literally in this video here was that basically all the Venezuelans that have come here are part of TDA. Okay, but again, guys, I know these tariffs are going to be expensive for us. I know they are. Specifically the retaliatory tariffs, right? They're going to be, absolutely. I know that Trump said that if they do retaliate, which of course they have to, though, bro. These are sovereign nations. They're sovereign. They cannot look weak to their population. So I think no matter what happens, they have to retaliate, right? Just like how we don't want to look weak at all under any circumstance. Colombia doesn't want to look weak, even though they basically just cowered, right? They did that. They immediately did that and was like, listen, let the planes land, okay? So it is what it is here, guys. So at least Colombia is trying to do something. But in fact, they look incredibly weak. I'm telling you, right? Now, the president of Mexico, she is definitely going to retaliate. It is what it is, guys. And the crazy thing about that one is that they build a lot of our cars. Like, a lot of the manufacturers that left the United States of America, they went to Mexico because the labor was cheaper and they can get a higher profit on their product, basically. That was the whole motive behind the whole move to Mexico thing for a lot of these car manufacturers, guys. It's the craziest thing in the world. It is what it is, right? Generally, when people put tariffs on countries, specifically for like cars and like gigantic items that just are expensive, they generally end up running back to the United States of America because what happens is people stop buying those products. You get what I'm saying here? They're now too expensive. They're overly expensive because of the tariffs, right? So I think Toyota did that in the 80s or 70s or something like that. We put massive tariffs on Japanese vehicles, and then they just decided to build manufacturing plants in America and say, you know what, these are American-made Toyota type of things, guys. BMW did the same thing. I think they have their factory in North Carolina or so. Like, all of these manufacturers understand that they're just going to have to start building things in America and paying people adequately, right? That's the only way to kind of avoid the whole tariffs, guys. But don't think Trump is special with the tariffs, though, guys. Biden kept a lot of Trump's tariffs. So just listen. I know Trump is tariff happy. He is. He's very tariff happy. Guys, hold on. I don't want to make this video a half an hour. Listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly. The fact that you just made it to the end of the video says a whole lot, actually. We have a couple other channels. MrLboyd Music, MrLboyd Movie Reacts, along with MrLboyd Discusses, where I just generally speak about the things that specifically matter to me. But in the meantime, I'll catch you guys later.